let's go over all the new features inside Filmic 7.0. So Filmic came out with version 7, which was a complete redesign of their entire interface. And then a few weeks ago, they came out with version 7.1, which has a couple of new updates. So let's break down what they all are. Let's start overall with the new look inside Filmic. One thing you'll notice, a lot more buttons. So one thing that was a little bit annoying with Filmic 6 was you had to kind of like dig into the menu settings if you wanted to change anything. Now we've got buttons. We got this gear icon right up here where you can jump into the settings. Or we got this other icon over here, my finger's getting cut off, where you can change your focus settings or how it pulls focus, which I also like because you could opt for a center weight option, or you could go back to the reticle, which you could manually select where you want to focus and what you want to expose to. And then we have our manual options. Another thing you'll notice here with the manual options is we no longer have those rings that came out, which weren't the best interface. Now we have these nice toggle switches, which I think are a little bit easier to operate when you're just using your fingers. And we've got our focus settings, and you can also see we have our options to make markers and do automatic pulls, which we'll go over in a second. And then we also have our exposure ring and setting over here. I'm just gonna go back to center weight. And then also you'll notice we have additional options for which lens we want to use, which again, this was buried in the settings before if you needed to change lens options, and then also how we want to remote control. I'll talk about at the end of the video about the remote control. And then up here in the top corner, this is a new quick action button. And so this is a great feature where I have it set to automatically just change the camera. But if I tap and press, I come up with a bunch of options where I can program whatever I want to be a quick action with this one press of the button. So you could either just play the last clip, you could have an auto white balance lock, you could hide the interface, whatever you want, you can set this button to do that, which is also super handy. And again, in the theme of more buttons, quicker access. And another thing, it also has a much better and more usable interface if you are recording vertically. Before certain elements were hidden, now you can have access to just about every feature and control. And then on the side, also another improvement are the audio bars. So I'm using this Comica mic right now that only has one channel. I'll talk about that in a future video. So you'll just see that there's one bar going. But if I tap it, I get other options where I can actually see the dB levels and cycle through this interface. And then again, theme of quick options, I can tap this mic button and pop up with the mic options and how I want to control it. All right, other interface improvement is you can see this nice top bar here, kind of something you would see on a Blackmagic or other pro level cameras. And from here I can nicely see all of my camera settings and options in one glance. And then I can also tap it and adjust it. So if I wanted to adjust the color temperature, I just tap it, and then I have all my color temperature options here. And then same thing, I can adjust the ISO, the exposure. So overall theme, it is so much easier to now jump into specific settings and change them with one tap. You don't have to dig into the menu and keep adjusting stuff. Another improvement is it's a lot easier to manually type in numbers. So let's say I wanted to manually just set my color temperature for 3200. I can now type it out and adjust my color temperature to this totally awful 3200. I'm gonna go back to automatic white balance. So you can do that in most settings. You can also now manually type in whatever number you want. All right, other cool features. I talked about this earlier. You can program focus pull. So if we go to manual mode, and if I just tap on this button, we get this option here where I can set my in and out points for where I want to focus. So I'll tap the plus button here, I'm out of focus, and then I want it to go to, now there are focus marks that I don't have on right now that would make this job a lot easier. And I'll tap the plus button, and then this bottom one I can control the focus, the movement speed that I want to do. And if I am recording over here, and I just tap the pink button or the blue button, it'll go back and forth between the focus marks. Now, one of the biggest changes with Filmic was the pricing model. Before it was just a flat rate, you bought the app. Now it is a subscription model. It is either $2.99 a week or $49.99 for the entire year. And this makes sense. Look, I mean, it costs money to develop these apps and continue to develop them. Having a one-time fixed rate without continual income makes it tough to keep developing these. That said, it was nice. Filmic did acknowledge that, like, yes, if you did purchase version 6, you own that, and there is a way to get back to that version of the app inside this new update, so you don't lose access to the app that you did purchase. For instructions on how to do that, you can check the description below. We'll have the info on how you could restore version 6. Also, I think it's a clever pricing model, either $50 for the entire year, or if you're just doing a one-off production where you need the app, you can just buy it for a week. You're not committed to a whole month. Also, with the new pricing model, it does unlock features that were paid extras before, like the Syndicate and the film looks. Those are now included with the subscription model. And also with the pricing model, the app is fully usable. You can record and do whatever you want. The only limitation is you can't get the files out of it unless you pay for the upgrade. So if you want to try it out, test out all the features, or record everything and then just pay for a week's subscription to download all your media, you can totally do that. So that's pretty much a wrap up for the main overall features that they released in version 7. In version 7.1, they did release 3 new updates. One was the thing about having the automatic focus pull that I just mentioned. The 2 other things were QR code settings. So if you're shooting with a handful of phones and you want them all to have the same settings and match, now you could just create your settings on one phone, pop up the QR code, all the other phones can scan it, and they'll instantly sync their settings up. So that's really handy and cool if you're doing a multi-camera shoot. And the other update in 7.1 is you can now sync up a keyboard, like an actual Bluetooth keyboard, to Filmic and control settings off of your keyboard. Kind of cool, definitely handy for doing studio recording, which is something I've been trying to do more of with this, but I've hit a lot of limitations that I'll talk about in a future video with doing self-recording on an iPhone. But one thing is the keyboard is a bit of a bulky device, so it'd be cool if you could plug in maybe like a number keypad or something and actually map what buttons do what to control Filmic. Now, a few things I want to mention that were a little bit annoying or I wish they would improve on. One is I did record a whole video using Filmic 7, this new app. I've maybe been recording for like 20 minutes off and on, but it was a lot of like recording. Towards the end, the file just froze, and the app didn't crash. It just kind of froze, and then when I like stopped recording, but didn't tell me there were any errors. And then it wasn't until I went back later that we were watching the footage and I like freeze speaking mid-talk. The video froze, but the audio kept going, and then in some other parts, just the video was choppy. So there was no warning or heads up about that. I won't fully say Filmic is to blame for that. I've been having weird quirks with this iPhone. It's the iPhone 14 Pro. It's been one of the weirdest phones I've owned. It had some weird quirks. Apps have been like very flickery and slightly crashing. So it could just be the phone. I don't want to put the blame on Filmic, but also when I have been running Filmic 7, especially if in ProRes mode, the phone has physically been hotter. It's been running hotter. I don't know what to say with what's at fault there, but that's just been one thing. The other thing is I talked about the whole new pricing model, and things like that were previously paid for, like the CineLooks, were now included. But the one thing that isn't included yet is, like I mentioned here, we have this little Wi-Fi button where we could do remote control options, so I could sync this with my iPad and use my iPad as a control device. But in order to do that, you still need the separate Filmic remote control app, which is like $10. So it's still a separate purchase. I would hope that they would have rolled it in, maybe that's on the timeline, to roll it into this app. So if someone has a Filmic phone, or if you have 2 devices and you log into your Filmic account on the same paid plan, that one device can control the other without having to load or purchase a separate remote control app. So with all of the paid things here, it would be nice if in the future you could just have one app that can control everything, either the one app to record your video or the one app to also be a remote device to controlling another device. So that's pretty much it. I mean, overall, all these improvements are extremely useful and make recording and controlling and understanding what's happening with your device when you're recording video a lot easier and a lot more intuitive, and also it just saves time because now you got more buttons to quickly access settings. So when you're recording, especially run and gun type stuff, it's a lot easier to control your image and make sure you're recording the type of shot that you want to record and understand all the settings that are happening at that time. But I would love to know your thoughts. Let me know if you're recording on Filmic or if you're using the regular camera app or another app. Let me know in the comments below, and also what other kind of features you'd like to see in Filmic. I'm curious to know what you're thinking. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.